And welcome back, everyone. As you know, we have an effort to make sure you're aware of all the wonderful women that live here in this valley, their unique story, and also what they do uniquely. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Nicole Trigg, owner of Botanical Verbiage. And I know you're asking, what is that? So please start by describing a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, they would communicate in flowers in the Victorian era. And so when I first heard about that, I'm like, oh, there's something so much more to that communication of flowers and using creation to be able to communicate in a different way. And so I started exploring that, just having so much fun researching what the different meanings were. And I'm like, what if you were to create a language arrangement where you were picking up those intentional pieces of flowers, knowing their symbolisms, and then arranging it for who you want to give it to, and for every occasion. So that's kind of how it started.
And I love that so much because there's so much history behind that. And something like that, I can just imagine somebody sending a arrangement to their lover, you know, or their mother, or somebody they hated, right? With these sets of flowers, right? So, so you started. We're actually coming up on your 5th year anniversary. So it's been 5 years you've been doing this.
Yes.
And how did you get started? Like, what, I know that you obviously found it interesting and you were intrigued, but what makes you say, I'm going to start this business and make that happen?
Yeah. Well, I was in a company, and they were all about leadership and being able to celebrate people. And so I'm like, I could offer a product. What would that be to be able to, you know, to service them, be able to have that celebration? And so I really didn't know a lot of people here locally in the Valley at all. And so, but I had a big network online, social media. So I said, oh, what if I use dried arrangements? And I thought about that, you know, vision that I had for the language arrangements. Like, I could do preserved and ship them all over the country, celebrating these people and their accomplishments. And so started that 5 years ago in September. And it just kind of, it was organically growing. Did not take one flower class. It was like the University of Google, and I don't know how to do this, and I don't know, you know, just getting inspiration from different places. And would go to the, you know, LA Flower Market, the San Diego Flower Market, picking up pieces that I just, you know, and sometimes it would be a lot of celebrations, but sometimes it would be something more heavy, like a grief arrangement. And I'd be like, okay, you know, and I always get to that point where I'd be stuck on, it's just not right yet. And I'm worried about the timing of, you know, making sure that they get it on time. And then it was so cool because I'd either be on a hike somewhere or another flower shop or something, and I'd find that perfect piece. And I'm like, oh, this is it. And then find those symbolisms and see it come together. So just kind of learning those first few months of business and doing that. And then the pandemic hit.
I was just going to say, because it's 5 years ago, then we go into COVID. And it always impresses me, like, thoroughly when somebody tells me they had a business that started right before COVID or during COVID, and you were able to maintain it. So I bet you had a unique role to fill when it comes to this during that time. Tell us about that.
Big time. So, you know, obviously everybody knows what had happened. Everything shut down. So my wholesalers shut down. You're not, you know, you can't go to the LA Flower Market. I can't get shipments in from other places. And so, and I had never really worked with fresh. I was doing dried, preserved arrangements, shipping them. Well, then my shipping rates tripled because the airline industry shuts down, so I can't ship out my arrangements. And so I found out that all the flower shops in the Coachella Valley, they shut down. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll be that person. And so I would sit on, like, go to Trader Joe's with the mask on and the gloves and stand in line and, you know, just start doing fresh arrangements out of Trader Joe's servicing the Coachella Valley. And I hadn't really, like, you know, connected with the community with the flowers, but that is what did it. And so, and it was interesting to the transition. It wasn't so much celebrations. It was people's first Mother's Day without their mom, or it was this much more deeper thing that evolved out of Botanical Verbiage. And I really started to see my honestly purpose in healing through creation with grief. And so that transition, using fresh flowers in those moments and being able to kind of bridge that gap and communicate that way, and then be able to do something local was like just this newfound joy, honestly, for my business I never envisioned before.
And who doesn't love receiving fresh flowers, obviously, right? However, I think when it has an intention around the arrangement, that is so hugely meaningful. So you're going to actually show us something like that today.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
So
yes.
you're doing a gratitude arrangement, okay,
Yes.
for a client. And can you kind of tell us a little bit about these flowers and what their meanings are, because obviously that's how you chose them.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I get a request or something that wants to order, I really want to know about that person.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want to express? And sometimes they don't know words yet. They don't know
Sure.
the symbolism, especially in grief. And so I'll try to have that, because I want the process for the giver to have just as beautiful experience as the recipient. So I'm like that. In that moment with them, because they're sometimes healing too, or they have that excitement that they want to celebrate somebody.
Sure.
So I want to make that experience so great for them. So I'm like, okay, tell me about them. What are their colors, aesthetics? Like if they need some guidance that way. Sometimes they say, here's a picture and these are the symbolisms, and I get to work. But sometimes they need a little bit of help in that.
Right.
So one thing that was really important for her is that she would incorporate feathers into this, because she is doing a gratitude for an angel on earth. And so these are so fun. They symbolize connection to the creator.
Oh, interesting.
So different flowers can have different symbolisms as well. So these can also make you taking refuge in something or protection. So I love that connection to the creator, because that's what the giver does. So we'll definitely use those. I love the gladiolus. They just create height and dimension. This is strength of character. Asters, being true to yourself. These little fun things are belly buttons, peace covering. Peruvian lilies are love and devotion. So bunny tails are so fun. You have a heart of gold, so those are always fun.
I love that.
So it's a kind of a beautiful process and challenging, in that not only the symbolisms have to match, but also aesthetically.
Sure.
You have to choose colors and heights and different things so it's pretty too.
Right.
So
it's got to look pretty too.
Yes, exactly. So kind of just learning along the way, and always up for the challenge. Like I feel like anything that aligns with your purpose, if you say yes to it, like you'll grow in.
You'll figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
What's been one of your most challenging arrangements to fill? Whether it was like something that was grief that felt really heavy, or something very light. Like what was so challenging about that?
Definitely those spaces in grief when it just didn't feel right and there's a time crunch. But I learned to trust that, because the timing, and I also pray over, I'm very faith-filled, so I pray over that too, and I believe even in the timing of that. And so if there's a delay in that timing, I just know that something they're not ready to receive it possibly yet.
Okay.
And so it's okay to trust that timing, because so many times that I've been missing that piece and I waited, then they're like, oh my gosh, it arrived at the exact moment, like the ashes arrived that day, or like pivotal things where they needed that strength of the symbolisms and the flowers to kind of be there with them.
Right.
And so that I've learned to trust that. But that definitely was a challenge, because I want to do I don't want to disappoint, and I want to be able to give that to them. Right now, my biggest challenge is events. I've gotten a lot of requests for events, and I do them, like nonprofits. I love to do that. And so there's or weddings. So there's this kind of balance between the intention, my purpose, things are custom, and then also like on a grand scale.
I was just gonna say, because like when you're talking wedding, if you're talking a bridal shower or a bridal party of 5 to 7 girls, bouquets alone, like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So how have you happened to manage that?
I have just made it a priority that the symbolisms and the intention are first. So if they're just wanting it to look a certain way for an event, if they're wanting it to just look a certain way, I usually give that to somebody else, and I have great referral partners. If they're just wanting aesthetics, I can definitely, there's some amazing talented people that's their jam, so that's what they do. If they do want a big event and they want those intentions and symbolisms, we still do the arrangements, but then I'll incorporate like a seed packet as a favor. And so those seed packets have those intentions and those words, and they can plant those words in faith.
Right.
Or they can have the flowers a part of their speech.
Right.
Like if it's for an anniversary or something, those flowers on your table, they represent that person, and then they're saying, so that's usually what I try to do with events is incorporate somehow and instill my purpose.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you said that, because so I'm getting married, and flowers are a cost. They're usually a very large cost of the wedding.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that for somebody who does something like this means profit. Yeah. And you said very clearly, very, transparently that that's not what you do.
Yeah.
You create arrangements that say something, that has intention, and staying true to that, you had to make a choice around that, right? Was that a hard choice?
Oh, big time. Absolutely. I mean, with custom arrangements, that's my goal too. That's why I don't have a big flower shop, is I want them affordable.
Sure. Okay.
To send flowers, I mean, sometimes now they could be 150, 250. My average arrangement is anywhere from 68 to 90.
I was going to ask you that. Delivered. Wow, that is a great price, because you're right. Like, you can get, something from a flower shop and it's well over $100.
Yeah.
For something that's like just like the one sitting next to it and the one in front of it, it's the same exact thing. So that's great. And how do they get delivered?
I do it myself.
You do?
Or my kids after school.
Oh,
we go and do that. I mean, we thrift. Like, I'll go to thrift stores, so I like to be sustainable as well. So definitely like thrifting bases. We're actually working on a really cool collaboration with somebody local as well. So that's important too, because the vase is the most expensive part sometimes.
Right.
So if I can, like, if people have, that's a way to kind of help me as well, as if they have like old vases that they're like, I'm gonna throw these out. Like, I will take them. That's the biggest blessing.
Okay.
They're the most expensive part. So any way that I can recycle those, then it just cuts on my costs, so that I can just pass that on to others. So I want them to be affordable, and for people to be able to have that joy of gifting without having to make a huge,
No, just like Master Miyagi.
Yes.
Bam. Where's my chocolate?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
That's important too. So events, it's obviously tempting when you can charge a lot and do that.
Yeah.
But if it feels like not right in your spirit and it's not purpose driven, you could do it, but it's a huge sacrifice, so.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think that translates to anything that you decide to do that you're passionate about. There comes a moment when you may have to compromise, or you're presented with an opportunity to compromise what your intentions around what you're doing, and you have to make that decision, even if it means like less money in the long run or in that moment. I think being okay with that is part of how you have a passion around what you do. Otherwise you lose the passion, because then it becomes about what you're making. And then why are we even doing this?
Exactly. And sometimes I said yes to the events and they didn't quite align with my purpose, like in that sense, but I had a big nonprofit fundraiser that I wanted to donate to, like seed packets. I wanted to just give those at my expense. So then I'm like, okay, well, if I do this event and it's not necessarily aligning with that, that will give me the money to be able to like get it in the hands of somebody else. So
there you go. Just
taking that time to remain purposeful in what we do is super important, and not just all about numbers and being resilient and adaptable to that. So
did you think when you started this 5 years ago that this is what you would be doing?
No, so much different. Like I still honestly haven't hit my fruition of what that original vision was. Is I want to have a healing sanctuary workshop someday. That is definitely the goal. I have a passion for women in the sex trafficking industry, ladies that have been incarcerated that nobody will give them a chance right out of prison. I want to be a space that I can show them employment and be able to be that manager that just shows them their giftings. And with a flower shop, it's pretty much every aspect of a business. Marketing and the creative side, finance, like there's every type of thing that they could learn within a flower shop to be able to see what they're good at. And so that is the goal, is definitely a healing sanctuary for even the community to come together and do grief workshops. A nonprofit that I was with, Joyfully Grieving, it was parents that have lost a child. And we did healing workshops kind of right out of COVID. And it was to service the families that didn't want to sit in a support group and didn't want to do a traditional services that we have. And so we would have these really cool, like we did botanical Christmas ornaments where you filled them in, and it wasn't so much about what you created, it was the conversations that people had during the process of it. And so that kind of thing. And so just being able to offer a space for people to come and create without the pressure.
And creating and being creative works different parts of your brain. that can actually like reduce anxiety and stress, especially if it's not something you're doing on the day to day. So I love that. Like, how far along are we to our healing place?
I know. I love
this. This is something like next 2 years we're manifesting this.
Absolutely.
Because it's, and I love how you said women who had been incarcerated, because when you're in there and then you get out, like, what are your resources? Who's going to give you an opportunity or a chance? Like, that's a huge deal. Yeah.
It's really slim. And so, and just, you know, the unhoused, you know, people, like, if they're struggling with housing right now, how are they supposed to make a living to just that stuff up, just to have somebody believe in them? And so, that's just, that's definitely on my heart. So that's
I can't wait to see that.
Purpose.
That's going to be amazing, and you're going to do that. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
it's going to be amazing. I'm excited for that. Can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so if people wanted to reach out to you to have something like this done, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram. I'm
Everybody
always on
says
Instagram. I love Instagram. I always get behind the scenes of, you know, what it's like in the midst of creating. So I'm at Mrs. Trigg. Botanical Verbiage has its own as well business page, but if you really want that kind of behind the scenes, at Mrs. Trigg. And you can place an order to botanicalverbiage.com. Has a lot of the ones that I have done with the symbolisms, and just to kind of get a feel for what the arrangements look like. So those are probably the two best ways.
Very cool. I love that. And what's the best advice somebody's ever given you?
You know, honestly, this is going to sound like super corny or whatever. I don't care. I love it so much. So when I first stepping into it, I was worried that somebody was going to steal this idea.
Oh, wow.
Like, who? I mean,
I've never heard of it.
But it's kind of like if there's symbolism everywhere with everything that we do, and as we become more aware to that, I feel like social media, people have done that. And you can go on flowers.com and they'll have symbolisms like on there and stuff, and Pinterest, and the symbolisms are out there.
Sure.
Obviously, you know, because I research it, so it's definitely out there. But why didn't anybody come up with, like, to create a language arrangement yet? Right. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this out there, and I have absolutely no resources, no money, like all the no's that I don't have. Like, I'm going to put that out there, and somebody's going to steal this idea and this thing that's so precious to me and important to me. And I was watching a master class with Sarah Blakely, and she is the founder of Spanx. And so she said, it changed my whole mindset on it. She said she has all of these different patents. I think she has 140 different patents. And these Chinese companies have come in and taken it over. I mean, you can find off Spanx in Target. You can find them everywhere. With all of her utility patents, she has never once gone after any company that has stolen from her, because she said, they already have my old idea. They already have what I've produced already. So they don't have access to the visions that I have, that I'm dreaming about and goaling about. They have what I've already made. So to me, I was like, okay, like they can have what I choose to put out there. Sure. But they don't have all the things that are on my heart.
Right. They didn't create this.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was out there and the elements were there, but you put it all together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a great piece of advice too, because I think a lot of people might be in that same position. Like, what if somebody takes my idea? I don't have a way to patent it or make sure that nobody does. Yeah. But you still got to do it.
Yeah, and we're always growing.
Always growing.
So if we put it out there, like they're trying to catch up to grow to what you just produced. They're copying. Right. Then they're trying to grow and produce that. But we're already on to the next thing.
100%.
So we're aligning with our purpose and our vision. So that would be the best piece of advice.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to say that we didn't talk about?
I don't think so. I just love what you guys are doing.
No, well,
just thank you for doing this for the community and highlighting businesses and stories. And thank you. Well,
we just believe really strongly that somebody hearing your story could change their life and help them get motivated to do something different. Like, and I'm going to butcher it, we're most uniquely in a place to help those who we were before. Rory Vaden, I butcher it every time, but it's so true. There is a person that will watch this and think I can do that, and that's like a huge intention behind it. So thank you, because this is so special. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Until next time.